Hello, hello, lovely Year 3 artists. We're going to be drawing some Celtic knots today, an open Celtic knot and a closed Celtic knot. So you can stop and start the video, or you can watch it to the end of the first section and have a go at drawing the open Celtic knot. However you want to do it, really. So you need a piece of paper, it's 21 by 21 centimetres, a pencil, a rubber and any colour felt pen, just choose your favourite colour. So I'm going to start off by drawing what's called an equilateral triangle. This is where the sides of the triangle, each of the sides is the same length. Now, we'd need rulers if we were doing this properly, and we're not, but it's just a rough equilateral triangle. And then you're going to mark the middle of each of the lines, each of the sides of the triangles. You can just find the centre dot. Again, look, I'm not using a ruler, I'm just using my eye. That's all we need. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw some arc shapes. So what we're going to need is we're going to find the point we need to start from, which is at the top here. We're going to draw to this point here and then onto this point here and this point here. And it's going to be an arc. Watch. Going out, touch that dot, doing an arc shape out. There we go. And then we're going to go over to this point here, so a nice curved sort of arch shape. It's called an arc, but we're then going to do the same thing on the other side. So we find the points, so here we go, one over to that point there, then we're going to go to this point here, joining the arcs together, and then round to this point here. So you can see there we've got two arcs drawn. And we're going to add our third. We can see where that's going to go now, can't we? Quite simply. So here we go. First point to the second point, round to the third, and to the last point there. 3 arcs. Now, if you want to stop and start the film, that's entirely fine. You might want to, here's a good place to pause it. But what we're going to do next is we're going to get the inner bits of our knot drawn. So we're just going to put a little point on here, just down about 1 centimetre, and then we're going to follow the arc round to there. But we're not going to take it right to the end because we're wanting to leave it looking as if it's got a little bit of chunkiness. Now we need to draw around. That's the second arc, the inner piece, and then the third. Now we're not far off, we just need to highlight the right bits so we can show how the knot weaves in and out, over and under each other. Okay, so we've got the basic shape here, so we're going to use a felt pen, and you can use any colour you like. I've just picked a green one because it shows up quite nicely. And what we need to do is we need to be careful here. We're going to start with this inner arc here, and I'm crossing over those lines but stopping there. When you go over some lines, the next set of lines, which is called an intersection, you don't draw over. So drawing over those, but stop. We don't cross over that one because we crossed over the one before. Okay, so can you see how that's a long line where it crosses over? The next one, we're doing a short set of lines and it stops early because this one's going to go underneath. Ready? The next one's going to be long. So we had long, short, long. This one's crossing over the intersection. You might want to just do this again in pencil a bit darker until you're certain before you use the pen, and that's fine. So because this line is going under there, we're going over on the next one. So we draw round right to the end, and we're going to do the same on the inner arc as well, round right to the end. Okay, so we can see now this one, the line already crosses over, so we know we've got to stop here. Here we go. There we go. We know we can't draw further than that. And it's beginning to get there. So last line in, we know that that's going over, so that's going under. So we stop it there. Okay, we are so nearly there now. All this needs is a tiny bit of shading to show where the lines cross over each other. If we put a little bit of shading in, it becomes really obvious. So at this point, you can just rub out all your rough lines and we can really neaten it up. Always good to have a good rubber for things like this. And remember, we're just trying something out today. This isn't your finished artwork or anything like that. So if you've made any mistakes, we'll learn from it. So where the lines go under, we want to do a little bit of shading next to them. There we go. We can see that. That's showing that that piece of the ribbon, if you like, think of it as ribbons moving round, is going underneath. Okay, you could think of it as ribbons or roads going under bridges and over bridges. Yeah, let's think of it as roads. I like that idea. So just shading wherever it's going over the top. We're putting some shading underneath. And there we go. We are done, my friends. Bit more rubbing out here and there. So if you haven't been stopping and starting the film as we go along, now's the time to stop and have a go at doing your first open Celtic knot. Give it a go. Okay, so we're moving on to the closed Celtic knot. So same idea, 21 by 21 centimetre piece of paper, and we just need a pencil again, our rubber and our pen. So we're starting in the same way with a sort of an equilateral triangle, roughly the same size lengths on each side, and we just make a dot in the centre. And again, we're not using rulers, we're just, it's called eyeballing it, where you're doing a guess. And now I'm doing a little dotted line from that centre point to each corner of the triangle. Just a little dotted line, it's to help us later. It'll make things easier. And if you want to stop and start the video, that's a good point to get to, or just carry on until the end. So once you've done that, you're going to put another little triangle in here over your dot. So we've got one triangle pointing up. This little tiny triangle is pointing downwards. Can we see that? So that triangle pointing downwards. And it's just a little triangle, and it's going to help us enormously. So we've drawn these dotted lines from the dot in the centre. I want you to mark the midway point between the dot in the centre and the point along that line. There we go. And all these points are going to make it much, much easier to draw with. So now we're going to start to do our sort of spiral shapes. And we start at one corner of the little triangle up to the dot. So there we go. We start from there up to the top, making an arc there. Twist our paper around and we start again, top of the triangle to the dot, top of the little triangle to the dot. And there we've got our spiral shape starting for the inside of our Celtic knot. So that's pretty good going. If you want to stop the film there, that's a good point as well. If not, carry on. So now what we need to do is to draw in some of the other lines as well. So I'm making a little point halfway along the lengths of our outside triangle, and I'm just going to join up to there, a little arc, slightly curved. Same again from here to here, top of that spiral round to the point there, to the outside of the triangle. Point of our spiral, the end of our spiral, curved, a little bit of an arc to the point there. Now, I tell you what, we've actually pretty well got it there. It might not look like it yet. What we need to do is we need to add a bit of depth. We need to add a bit of what's called negative space. So we're going to put little triangles in, and this is actually making some shading. So a little triangle at the top there, one there. Let's twist the paper around. So it's again, it's at the top of where we drew those spirals. This little triangle, okay. And we need to add one of those onto each of the ends of the spirals. Now we're going to add them to the outside. So again, this is just about a tiny bit of shading. So we're thinking about here on the outside of the knot now, here, wherever there's a join. So that's the midway point, isn't it, of each of the sides of our triangle. So we've got 6 triangles. We've got the centre triangle, and then 3 on the inner spiral, and then 3 on the outside. And you'll just see what a difference that suddenly makes by making what's called negative space of shading in little bits. It suddenly begins to look like a knot where we've got lines overlapping. Think again about what we said earlier about the roads going under and over, under into tunnels, over on bridges. So just get rid of some lines we don't need. And then we're going to be ready to just get some darker pen on there, something a bit stronger, and we just follow those lines. There we go. Just going over each of those lines. And it will suddenly come to life when you see this, and you'll suddenly go, there it is. I found this, I think I enjoy drawing these closed knots more than the open ones, actually. It was just, it was a bit of magic. You just do these dots and a few triangles and a few lines, and all of a sudden it becomes this knot. You sort of don't see it, you don't see it on the journey, you just see it when it arrives. There we go. Just drawing over each of those lines. And I'm sort of just shading in my triangles as well. Why not? Make those a little bit darker. And there we have it. So give that a go, everyone. Make sure you've had a go at the open knot and the closed knot and see how you do. Again, this is just a bit of a warm-up, just a bit of a practice to get us thinking. We'll be using these Celtic knots in our next lesson when we build collages around them. Okay, bye everybody.